What's up guys, my name is Bendra and thanks for joining me today in a review of Dreamland by Glass Animals. Glass Animals are a psychedelic pop band formed in 2010. But honestly, when I think of Glass Animals, I don't get a pop vibe, but rather a psychedelic alternative feel. Or at least this was the case with the old Glass Animals that I learned to love. But maybe with this new album, Dreamland, they got pushed into the commercial spotlight completely and perhaps they deserve the mainstream pop label. Let's find out. In 2014, I came across a band that sprinkled some new flavor onto my musical preferences and introduced me into a more psychedelic take on alternative music. This newfound band, Glass Animals, with their debut album Zaba, not only taught me to listen to the nuances hidden in songs and in the entire album, but also taught me to appreciate the journey that a song can take you on. Zaba is an album that is filled to the brim with eerie instrumentals, calming vocals, and lyrics that never really need to make sense in order to portray a message. The narrative of each song gets through by means of the emotion and the picture that gets painted by the swirling emotions and the native percussions and even the odd jungle instruments that gets thrown in. This album is a psych kid's bread and butter, and it still gets me to put it on from time to time. In 2016, Glass Animals ventured a little bit away from the psychedelic realm with their album How to Be a Human Being. And they tried to incorporate a different tone and maybe try to branch out from their usual audience and focused more on writing catchy lyrics and memorable hooks on their choruses. This album was again fused with odd sounds and effects, but rather had a little bit more of a millennial flair. There are a couple of great catchy guitar riffs and bass guitar riffs throughout the LP, and they all get accompanied by this swirling synth sound that we expect from Glass Animals. This album also definitely borrowed some R&B and early 2000s hip-hop elements, but adapted them to fit a more Glass Animals sound. Probably the biggest growth in How to Be a Human Being is that there is a very clear focus on humanity and the ins and outs of life itself, filled with stories of different characters throughout the entire album. I feel like Glass Animals tried to adapt with the times with How to Be a Human Being, and for the fans of the debut, this was a top-notch album and was a warm welcome. Now, 2020 brought back Glass Animals with their latest LP called Dreamland, and it feels like there's a totally different take on not only the production, but also to the general Glass Animals vibe that we grew to love. Dreamland erupted from a tragic accident in 2018 involving the drummer of the band, Joe Seward, resulting in the drummer suffering from brain damage and had to undergo rehabilitation and had to relearn to walk, to talk, and ultimately to play the drums. This tragedy led to the band and Dave Bailey in particular to adopt a different angle and style of writing music. Where the previous two albums focused more on the narrative lives of others, Dreamland dealt with the interpersonal struggles and delved more into the possibilities of writing about oneself. The lyrics and underlying tones in songs like Domestic Bliss, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and It's Also Incredibly Loud really managed to paint the physical emotions into words, where for example Bailey describes the silence directly after something hurtful has been said. As the previous album also used elements of R&B and hip-hop, Dreamland also undoubtedly capitalized on the rising hip-hop market. Songs like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Tokyo Drifting, and Melon and Coconut really sound like Bailey's attempt on hip-hop songs, and for anyone that likes hip-hop, these songs might strike a sympathetic note, but I wouldn't say that these songs ring true with fans who started listening to Glass Animals since the days of Zaba. There are songs on Dreamland that sound like a callback to previous albums though, with tracks like Hot Sugar, Your Love, and Heat Waves that might as well have been tracks off of How to Be a Human Being. Songs that still feel like Glass Animals, but with a new twist, are songs like Tangerine, Waterfalls Coming Out of Your Mouth, Domestic Bliss, Helium, and they're very impactful. It's Also Incredibly Loud. These are all songs that might attract new listeners, but also satisfy the Glass Animals taste buds of seasoned listeners. Dreamland also has a couple of interlude tracks between the songs. These interludes are snippets of childhood memories and really help to form the emotions and general tone of the album as a whole. Overall, there is something on Dreamland for everyone, from new listeners to old fans and even for hip-hop and pop fans. Personally, this isn't an album that I would put on when I'm in the mood for Glass Animals. I would rather put on Zaba or How to Be a Human Being, but it's a very solid record and it's got a very unique personality and it deserves any critical acclaim that comes its way. Cool. If you enjoyed this video and you liked my review of Dreamland by Glass Animals, please let me know by hitting the thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing. And if you didn't enjoy it or if there's something that I missed, also let me know in the comments. Cool. Till next time. Cheers.